Hi, this is Leanne from Herbals, and welcome to my video. Today I decided that it was time to roll out one of my new video formats that I've been threatening to do for a little while. And so I wanted to introduce you to one of the trails in Central Florida in my brand new Trail Reviews video series. Now, the trail that we started with is here in Oviedo, Florida, right on Lockwood Boulevard, which is one of the busier roads. And you never would know this little tiny trail is here because it's not very well marked from the road. And there's only a little bit of parking parallel on the side. However, it's called Flagler Trail, and it's part of the historic trail system here in Florida that is based around railways and old railroads. It's also part of the Florida Trail system, so if you're walking the Florida Trail, it might be a little familiar to you. Now, Flagler Trail on this trailhead does not have a trail map, and it seems to be fairly primitive, so there's probably not going to be any restrooms along the way. However, just looking down the trail, I can see clearly marked trail markers on the trees. So this is going to be interesting, and I haven't been on this trail yet either, so you get to join me for my first adventure here. So this trail seems to have lots of these little bridges, which is good because it seems to be fairly wet. So even though the entrance seems fairly accessible, as the trail goes, it gets less accessible, especially for wheelchairs, but certainly not friendly to people with problems moving. A little ways in, we found a nice little lake with some wildflowers popping up on it and around it. So I got a little closer to the lake and I got to see what flowers are popping up, and I was right on my first thought. This is a bladderwort. Pretty darn exciting. These plants are super fascinating because they are a freshwater aquatic plant, and they're also carnivorous. Just like you'd expect from any wet trail in Florida, along the trail you can find plenty of go-to cola. I'll link a video below where I go into details of how to use go-to cola and how to identify it. Now we're stepping from the wet lake area into a more typical Florida pine scrub kind of area. So as we're walking along, we're seeing a lot of this beautiful vine here. Gets mistaken for honeysuckle a lot because of its sweet smell. But this is Carolina Jessamine, and it's toxic. So if you see this beautiful yellow vine, which can grow all along the tree canopies, all along the walls, it's gorgeous, just don't eat it. And of course we find one of our friendly neighborhood Yopon hollies. This one's a pretty tall shrub, but it's in the middle of a bunch of beautiful sweet gums and pines. Now, if you missed my video on this in December, this plant, the leaves from it can be roasted and made into a tea. It has a fairly decent amount of caffeine in it. It can be used as a coffee substitute. It's also one of many hollies we have in this state. Now this trail is fairly narrow and fairly one-directional. But my husband and I, who is my partner in crime for most of these adventures, are kind of adventurous. So whenever we see a side trail, we aren't always afraid to take it. We've wandered into a little bit of palm scrub. And this is a great place to show you a couple differences. You see, this that I'm standing right in front of is just a small palm tree. How can I tell? It's got a point right there. It also isn't serrated on the branch. Whereas if I go across the trail, here I can see some saw palmetto. You see, the leaves have a rounded section and the branch is quite serrated. I don't know if you can see that in this video, but it certainly is serrated. So this trail leads to a waterfall. If you listen closely, you can hear it before you get to it. There we go. Pretty typical Florida waterfall. But it's a nice, pleasant sight. A little ways past the waterfall, we're running into a lot of oak and maple. I don't know if you can hear it. There's a woodpecker up in one of these trees. Great area for birds, but good luck finding them. They know how to hide. So we're a little past that waterfall that you saw, which was about half a mile in, and this trail is just a nice little shady trail full of all kinds of little surprises. There are some surprises I wanted to warn you about in case you want to come down this trail, and that is I did find a little bit of poison oak and poison ivy on the side of the trail, so just keep an eye out for that. But also, it connects to the Geneva Wildlife Area, so if you want a bit of a longer hike, you can always continue in that direction. Now, we're going to keep going for a little bit, but I wanted to stop and say goodbye to everyone here and hope you enjoyed this video format. If you have questions, comments, any critiques, please leave them down below. If you like what I'm doing and want to see more, feel free to find me on Patreon. Now, I also have a Teespring account that has all kinds of t-shirts and merchandise on it. Feel free to browse that and shop and follow my blog. And have a wonderful day.